friends is this concept that I came up with laying in bed one night. I have all these close friends who have these wonderful stories that can help change the world, life experiences that can help other people believe in themselves, hold tight to their dreams and make their dreams reality. On Feeling Friends, we talk about God, we talk about love, relationships. I have celebrity friends, I have non-celebrity friends. I have church members, family members. But when you watch and listen to Feeling Friends, you will learn and you will laugh. It's a community of friends helping to build each other up. So tune in to Feeling Friends every Sunday on WHCR 90.3 FM, or you can catch me on YouTube at Feeling Friends Radio. All right, I'll see you there. WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. What's up, everybody? It's me, Phil, and I'm so happy to be back live on air with you, my friends. I've got a great show for you today. I've got one of my favorite people in New York, Reverend Janine Myrick is here live on air with me today. We're going to talk about her life, her ministry, her work here in New York City. So without further ado, here is Reverend Janine Myrick. Welcome, Reverend Myrick.
Oh, Phil, welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for just always being a great support to me. And I have to tell the audience, if it was not for you, and you always say, no, it was me, but I believe it was you. God put you in my life to help me through ministry, to help me get to Union and Theology School, and to give me the opportunity to preach on Thursday. I am so grateful for you. And words cannot express my gratitude to you. So thank you.
I'm so happy to be in your life, to be this catalyst. And don't forget, you were the first person that joined the church after I preached my initial sermon. So I will never, ever forget that.
I'll never forget it either. Something just told me to get up and look where we are now. And I got up, and that's when Reverend Butts was there. And it's been a powerful movement since then. So we appreciate you. We really do.
Thank you so much.
So before we get started into anything, tell the people who you are.
Oh, so Janine Myrick. I am a mom. I am a wife. I am a friend. I am a daughter, a sister, a Black woman trying to make it out here. That's who I am. Yes. A reverend.
Reverend. And one of the most impactful reverends that I know. My mom always says she's so calm and she's just so nice. She doesn't like all that hooping and hollering, because I hoop and holler. And so your sweet spirit is a blessing to a lot of people. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate it, but it's because I was raised Catholic, so I guess that kind of stays with me from being in the church, kind of being quiet. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time my dad took us to New Orleans, and we went to a gospel concert, and that's where we saw people screaming and hollering, and my brother and I's eyes just got so big, so it wasn't what I was used to, but I love it. It's just not what I was used to.
Well, that's very interesting. So let's talk about your life. Let's talk about, and you grew up here in New York, right?
I certainly did, in Queens, out in Cambria Heights.
Cambria Heights. Okay, so tell us how that life was like for you. So you grew up Catholic. Obviously a great family. So tell us what that was like in your trajectory.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for that. Well, just to give some perspective, it was in the 60s. We were the first Black family on the block, first Black family 4 blocks. And it was, from what I understand, it was difficult. I think when my parents moved, I was like 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old. So I don't remember much, but the neighbors on either side didn't want them there. Our house was broken into. Different things on the house was destroyed. It was rough in the beginning, and then I guess what they call busted the block open, and then other Black neighbors started to move. It did take quite a while though for it to change. And for people that understand Queens, there's a school, Andrew Jackson High School, which was pretty well known after the Black students started to come. But when I got there, it was all white. So it was an interesting time. Had an opportunity to witness the neighborhood changing. My dad worked for IBM, which was quite a blessing. And my mom stayed home for a long time. And then when she did go to work, she was an administrator for the Board of Ed. So we had a good lifestyle. We traveled quite a bit. My parents thought it was best to get us exposed to everything. So I think the best experience I had was, I think I was a junior in high school, uh, and my grandparents, my parents, and my brother and I, we went to Africa, and that was quite an experience. Yeah.
Wow, wow. That's an amazing story to tell. I mean, IBM, and then you have traveling and you breaking through. So you started off with the social justice experiment, being a young person. Didn't even know what path you were going down.
Well, I think I knew, my in the household.
Mm.
My parents were very, very. They stressed that. One of the jokes in my family was, James Brown, I'm black and I'm proud, that I
Oh
would
yeah.
I would hold my head out the window screaming it as my dad was driving.
Oh,
So
I love that. I love that. So you did know. You were very aware.
I'm very aware. Yes.
And that's very important because you have a son. Um, and talk about that Black Power experience and understanding who you are, understanding whose you are. What was that like growing up and how you translated it to your son?
Yeah. So Kyle, my son, understood it very, very quickly also. The neighborhood that I lived in after I moved out of my parents' house, well, even in Cambria Heights, the education system is not that great. Even I was bussed out, to another school district. So I did the same for Kyle. I brought him into the city over it's District 2. He went to PS6 right off of Park Avenue, where there was definitely a different experience, which kind of shaped his life. But he was very aware of who he was. I had to go up to the school to speak to certain teachers, because they felt like he was, acting out, except that he had finished the work and, was bored. So those were the conversations that we had to have. And speaking to teachers, they wanted to know, well, how does it feel to be black? These are the crazy questions that come up. So these are the different things that I had to prepare my son, for, to be able to navigate as a black person here in these United States.
And what question is that? What is it? You will be surprised at what we go through in these situations.
It's true. And also, I, prior to ministry, I have like, probably 30 plus years in finance on Wall Street. And, I was pregnant with Kyle while I was on the trading floor. So he was raised in that as well. And he saw how I had to navigate myself in these very challenging, areas. So yeah.
Yeah. Odyssey.
Birthday Sunday, 33.
Oh, he's 33.
He's
Okay,
33.
good. Well, tell him happy
Yes.
birthday.
I
Now
said,
you talk about Wall Street, and I mentioned that before. You have a great experience in Wall Street. What was that like? And how did you like navigate from Wall Street to the church? Well, you were already in the church, but how did you go from being on Wall Street and where you make tons of money, way more than you do working in the church, as we know, to Wall
yeah.
Street?
I often think about that, like the whole trajectory. But, Wall Street finance was not my passion. It was something that I was directed to by my parents. Growing up in a corporate, household, it was like, no, you're going to go where the money is.
Money is
Right?
right.
So, I got a bachelor's of business administration and quantitative analysis, and, I had a very good friend who's still in finance. So I kind of followed her path. I've worked at a lot of the major houses. I've worked on the trading floor. I've worked when I was on the trading floor, I worked as a fixed income salesperson selling government bonds. I worked in operations. I worked as a financial advisor. My last situation was in compliance, working in anti-money laundering and fraud. And that's while I was
You
coming
now.
I was coming here. I was coming to Union at night studying, Christian ethics and looking for bad guys that are, cheating at work. But it was very, very difficult, because the more I advanced in my career, I had Series 7, Series 8, 9, 11. I was a commodities principal and options principal. And one of my jobs, before folks could do any type of trading, they had to get my approval, and that didn't go over very well. So it was difficult. And I would run into when President Obama was elected, there was a life-size portrait of him put on the floor with a jar saying "Go back to Africa," and money hanging out of it. These are the types of environments I was working in. So finally, I had had enough and made arrangements to kind of make my exit. I was already in seminary, and after going part-time for 3 years, I decided to leave the corporate situation, and do seminary full-time.
So that was so just to let people know, if you don't know who Reverend Myrick is, she is now at Union Theological Seminary. She is a reverend at the great Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. And she trained under one of the greatest ministers, Reverend Calvin Butts. And I joined when I moved back from LA, and that's when I met her in 2018. Was it 2018 when
I
you
believe
became
so.
ordained?
Yes. Yes.
2018 when you became. See, I know your whole history. and so and so here we are. We left the finance, and in that world, it's not very Christian oriented. We're not focusing on the Lord and helping people. It's about money. It's about dollars. And like you said, you were focused on ethics at nighttime and money during the day. So you have
Exactly.
to make a choice.
Exactly. And what was helpful, like you mentioned, Reverend Dr. Calvin Otis Butts III. He was my mentor. Um, I believe he and another brother, we were the last ones that he ordained. But back in 2018, I was doing my field education from Union Theological Seminary. So, I got to sit by his side as he just mentored and taught. And that, I believe, had a lot to do with it too. It gets difficult to be able to navigate both those worlds and give both your best. So there were some decisions that I had to make.
As a minister, and I want to jump into ministry because you do it so well.
Okay.
How do you, if a person is going through something right now, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. A person is trying to choose which path to go down. And Reverend Myrick, we see so many things going on. In today's time, either you're going to choose what's right or you're going to choose what's wrong. What
Yeah.
advice would you give someone who is struggling with that, and they're at work and they're trying to figure it out, and they just don't know because they see the money and the world we living in, but they want to go with God, but it's not as feasible? What advice you give them?
Oh, I would say it's real. The decision is real. It's not an easy decision to make, but oftentimes it's not your decision. God, I believe God moves, and and if it's to be, it will be. It's where faith and trust come into play. For me, um, yeah, I had to make that move. Um, I was very frightened because of the money, um,
But that was
but
a big jump. That's a huge jump
oh,
from
it's
going to
um,
Wall
it's a
Street to
it's a big jump.
yeah.
I will. Yeah, yeah, it's a big jump. Without disclosing too much, I um I didn't leave my jobs in an easy way. The
Yeah,
law system,
absolutely.
the legal system was involved in it a
Oh,
little bit.
really? Okay.
So, but after a while, for me, it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And at first, it was pretty rocky, but then it was like things just started to align. I graduated from seminary in 2020, COVID, right in the smack of COVID, right? So, job opportunities, none, right? But what happened, I decided that I wanted to try to find a way to change my career. I knew it wasn't going to be finance anymore, even if I wanted to. After making a jump like that, very few firms will hire you back, and that's probably a good thing. So what I did is I applied to be the president of New York Theological Seminary's assistant. Now, after 25 years of having my own assistant, I was like, look, This is what I want to do. And how wonderful that was to work with Reverend Dr. Lakeisha Waltron as her assistant. And I learned that way. And at the same time, doors opened here at Union. Dean Pock, who was the field ed administrator, went on sabbatical, asked me to come in and fill in for her as her administrator to keep the program running. I did that. And then when she
Sorry, the lights are off.
oh,
Keep
oh,
going, keep going.
no,
Sorry.
sure. And then when Dean Park was promoted to academic dean, I assumed her position. So it was like a career just kind of opened up for me. And I do believe that's all God. I didn't find myself out on my face, without any income. I'm able to live. My needs are met. It's a good thing.
And you're helping people. You help a lot of people. And that's a
Oh,
part of your job at Union. And I don't know if you want to go into that, is helping people find their paths in
yeah.
life.
I
That
love.
means, yeah,
Go ahead, please.
that means a lot because, you talk about how just stepping out on faith, like you don't know. And if you don't know about, let me just say this about Wall Street. If you don't know anybody who works in finance, I have friends who works in finance, friends that work in finance. And in undergrad, when they at 21, they were making 130, 120. So you're coming in hot, you're making good money. So by the time you get to a certain level, it is not, but when you step out on faith and then you realize God has something bigger and better for me, it changes the game for you. It really does. He starts to open up doors for you.
Yeah, and it's not light stuff that
Hmm.
happens
Yeah,
while I was there. It was
right.
hard. It
Yeah.
it it hit my psyche. So yeah,
Hmm.
helping others. I think my trajectory was what it was supposed to be, because that's what I do here when I speak to students. I don't think there's too many people that come to seminary. Not too many people like, yeah, I'm going to seminary. I know that's what I want to do. There's a little bit of trepidation because, unlike an MBA or JD, a lot of money is not guaranteed at the
Yeah.
end. So why am I doing this, right? And I like to share with people that it's usually what's inside, what you're being directed to do, and how wonderful a feeling it is when you allow yourself to do what your soul is striving to do. And here, helping folks, people entering into seminary, sharing my challenges, expectations, sharing my trajectory, gives me great joy.
Absolutely. Now let's shift to you being a woman in the pulpit. I'm from down south, and my mother, she's like you. She's educated. They don't play games when it comes to women in the pulpit. Everybody should have an opportunity, and so many men down south still have that idea. Even up north, they have the idea that women shouldn't be in the pulpit. What do you say to that? And being a woman in the pulpit every Sunday.
Yeah, I, you know, I thought about that. I thought about that
Mhm.
question, and my experience. I was lucky um, to my first experience in ministry was at Abyssinian. As a matter of fact, outside of the Catholic Church, the first church that I entered was Abyssinian, and I've been there. So Abyssinian is my experience, and it could be timing, but Dr. Butts was very open. I shouldn't even say the timing, because before me there were several women ministers in the pulpit. So I didn't experience it that way um, from pulpit leadership. However, some of the biggest issues are from other women, not in ministry, but there are women that have a strong issue with other women being in the pulpit. So that was probably most of the issues, if we want to term it discrimination. That's where the problem continues to lie. I do know when I go to other functions that there are sisters who in the South who are not allowed up on the pulpit, and I think that something needs to be done about that. There would be no Jesus without a woman.
I don't think that in one of my first classes this semester, with one of your colleagues, we talked about Eve being the first prophet, the first person to call on the Lord's name. And so if it wasn't for women in Jesus' ministry, where would we be? So shout out
Exactly.
to all the women, especially the black women doing a
There you
thing.
go. There you go.
what
Yes.
is what is it like being that figurehead every Sunday? You work with another woman as well in the pulpit, but what is it like? Because people hear you, and I'm telling you, if you've never heard Reverend Myrick, go look her up. I'm sure you got
Oh,
some
I
stuff on
appreciate
Facebook.
that.
But you bring you have a very interesting style. You can bring some hip hop in there. You bring some, all these things that just really inspire people. What does that mean to you?
Well, I feel I appreciate you saying that.
Hmm.
I really just come as who I am, right?
Hmm.
And um, I grew up in Queens, Run
Yep.
DMC, LL. Um, so that I mean that's part of my part of my life, my upbringing. Um, uh, I Most of my friends during that age group, a lot of them were five percenters, a lot of them were members of the Nation of Islam. When I left the Catholic Church, I did a lot of studying on my own, and then here at Union, this study of African religions and just open up to just different ideas. That's what shapes me. I know what I believe, but I also know that there is so much else out there in the world, and I think that it's so important to make people feel like they belong. So that's my hope, that in my preaching and just me being there is that people understand that. Um, in our case, Christ believers, Jesus believers, is open to everyone, and they should be able to see a piece of them in that.
And you believe, and tell me if you believe that, like you just said, that people should venture out and learn about other religions, because it's New York. Had I been in Dallas still, I think I wouldn't have had this mindset. I think my next class coming up is interreligious engagement and being able to know all of these religions. Is that important, especially being a Christian, to understand other religions and other people?
I think it's so important. I mentioned when I moved to Cambria Heights, it was still
Mhm.
basically a white neighborhood. So right around the corner was a Jewish synagogue, and I would see those people walking to the church or walking to the temple on Saturday, but yet go up to the Catholic school where they would say that people that were not Catholic were going to hell, and my little mind could not wrap. I couldn't wrap around that. I mean, they look like nice enough people to me. And how could that happen? So I think it's important that you not only learn, but you respect other faiths as well, other traditions. And for me also, like to be Black in the United States, right? Um, I often wonder what is underneath, what is my religion, because was Christianity forced on us? What's happening? So when you study, there's a class, I don't know if you've taken it yet, African religions in the diaspora. It talks about how these African religions influence Christianity, and that helped me. That helped me embrace, it helped me to be a Christ believer because I could see the relationship, and I didn't feel like I was taking on some type of colonization. So that was forced upon me. So yeah, I think you should know what you're practicing, and that makes it stronger.
And then just to go deeper, go all the way back to Ethiopia, go back to, the beginning of it, it changes everything. One of the greatest
Yes.
things about Union this semester, I was in class, and for some reason, all the Black students, we come together. This is like the
Mhm.
first week. We sat next to this guy. He was like, "Yo, what's up, Phil?" He'd say,
Yeah.
"What's up?" He sat next to me, and the teacher started off the class, and she said, before we get started or anything like that, or we get into the lesson, she said, "The people in the Bible look like those two gentlemen right there." And she was pointing
Ah,
to me and my buddy. We're friends now,
yes.
and we were like, "Man, see, this is cool." And she did not look like us. And I
Mhm.
thought that was the most powerful statement when we start to decolonialize our thoughts about how we look at things. We focus on Jesus and what Jesus was really about. He was not about the condemnation of people, but the uplifting
Mm.
and the least of these.
That's that's totally it. Through my education, I could count on my one hand and have fingers left the amount of Black professors that I had. So when I entered Union, my first class was with James Cone, with
Oh,
Dr.
wow.
James Cone,
Hmm.
and he was like, he's just started out the class with Jesus is Black, and I was like, oh. And it wasn't too many people that looked like me in the class, but everyone was interested. And then when you do the study, you realize that it's not just talk, right? There are scripture, there are artifacts, there are things that these professors are able to back up what they're saying. And I know when I entered seminary, folks said, "Be careful, you're going to lose your religion." For me, it just made it deeper, because I believe.
Yeah, you know what? That's like three people told me the same thing, and I said, "Nope, it's not gonna happen." And I believe I'm stronger now. Like you can't,
Exactly.
I don't know what it is. A strong. It's like I know God is real. You can't tell me the Holy Spirit is not real. I don't know what you learned, it's and wherever you're from, but it does strengthen you and it does take you to. And I believe union helps that as well.
Yeah, I think so. But what it does do is um, the God you may know, the way that you may be interpreting the scriptures may not be. For people that are not privy to these different discussions that we have here at Union, it may shock you. It may not be what you want to hear because it's not sugar coated. It's not pretty out there. There's certain things that if you really look at it from a historical perspective, it's not pretty. I like to say the easy Jesus, the one that's
Mhm.
laying in the fields petting the lamb. That's not that's not my Jesus, right? Dr. Aubrey Hendricks wrote a book, The Politics of Jesus, where he talked about Jesus as a revolutionary. That is the Jesus that I can relate to because that's the Jesus that fits my needs, fits my situations. And in that same book, he talks about making the people's needs holy. That to me, that's what it's all about.
Jesus was a revolutionary, and he flipped some tables, and we got to start. And he would not be pleased
Oh
with what's going
no.
on right now. And I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow in my sermon,
Amen.
my homily.
Oh, yes.
I want to shift the conversation. We're running out of time, but I want to talk about you and your husband, who
Uh,
is a stoic, great man who I know. Let's talk about their relationship, this Christian husband and wife relationship that I believe is a powerful relationship. What advice would you give to couples to keep going and keep pressing?
well,
Pressing
thank
on?
you, for saying that, and I'll share with you that this is my second marriage, right? I
Okay.
did it with God, and I did
Mhm.
it without God, right?
Mhm.
And I mentioned that because I was doing a sermon, and someone added up the years, and they were like, "Wait a minute, our son is this age, and they've been married this long." I just think that's kind of crazy that people kind of do that, but this is what it is. I met Ernest through the Blue Nile rites of
Mhm.
rites of passage. We were both serving and mentoring. Um, it is wonderful to be in relations with someone who believes and trusts in God. As a matter of fact, Ernest is probably the catalyst for me going to seminary early in our relationship. Now I'm working in finance, and I mean, the stress level is crazy. And I remember one time we were on the phone, and I was complaining about what was going on, and he said, "Well, let's pray." And I hesitated, and I was like, "Let's pray," thinking to myself, "All this going on, let's pray." But I was committed to trying something different, and thank God I was. So
Yeah,
yes, not only it's the Blue Nile that I'll share with that because it's such a wonderful thing to be around people who are everyday people, but rooted in faith and rooted in God.
that makes a whole. And I think that we should start aligning ourselves with people who are rooted in God. There's nothing wrong with having people who don't believe, but it's very important to have people who believe. When you agree.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's helpful. It's always helpful to be in community. To give a plug, there was one of the young daughters and sons of the Blue Nile got married this weekend, and
Oh
it
wow.
was just they married each other, and they grew up in this community. And I have never been to a wedding that was filled with so much love. So for anybody out there, yeah, find your people that hold you and keep you.
If you could go back to yourself, um, maybe 40 years ago, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell a little girl? What would you tell young Janine?
Follow your dreams. Don't worry about whatever everybody else thinks. follow what's in your heart. I really wish I had done that back then.
Mhm. That's very important. Follow your dreams and put God first, and He gonna take care of everything, right? I
That's
know
it.
He is.
That
Any
is
final
it.
thoughts for our audience?
Now, just Phil, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I am so excited about your ministry, about how you are moving, and I love to hear you preach. I can only imagine what's going to happen once you finish this. Once you finish the seminary, I know that you will be powerful. I want people to stay strong. This is a crazy time. Um, Staying rooted in faith will definitely help.
And again, I thank you for the opportunity. You are the first person to give me an opportunity at a church to preach and to speak God's word and practice. And it's so important for people to practice. And I just thank God for you and your life. I really do.
Thank you so much, and thank God for you as well.
Thank you. Hold tight for me, okay? The lights went off.